Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. I just want to take a couple of seconds to introduce myself. My name's Emily. I'm a head of program of Techstars. I'll be moderating this panel today and basically bringing you through this hour with us. This hour will be broken down in a couple of different components. So first of all, I will be introducing this session. Then we will have an introduction to ecosystem development by our own Katie Smith, head of ecosystem development at Techstars. We will then enable you guys to get a little bit more of a glimpse of who the speakers are. Marty and Mariam will have a few minutes to introduce themselves, and we will delve into the conversation. There's going to be hopefully a few minutes for Q&A, so prepare your questions, put them in the question Q&A tab immediately, and if we don't have the time to answer your specific question, we will try to get back to you via email afterwards in any case. So don't be shy and already put your questions here in the Q&A tab. And at 5 p.m. CEST, we will be done, 10 ET and 7 Abu Dhabi time, depending on where you're joining from. I'd like to give the mic to Katie Smith for her to introduce herself and give us a few informations about what ecosystem development means, especially at Techstars. So Katie, welcome to the stage, and thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Smith, and I'm based in Seattle, Washington. It's good morning for me, but for several of you, you might be winding down for the evening. So I, again, am based in Seattle, and I have a background in product implementation and scaling operations. And what I've boiled that down to in my career is I've been able to bring amazing products to amazing people in so many different forms. And right now, it so happens that I get to bring the most incredible thing to founders and partners everywhere, which is what we get to talk about today. But yeah, so my career has spanned tech, M&A, HR, staffing, real estate. So a lot of tricks that I've been able to pull out of my sleeve to really understand how to best serve founders and our greater community. So I'm briefly going to talk about Techstars for those of you who are logged in who may be unfamiliar, but most of the conversation is going to be around, of course, our ecosystem development efforts. So the first thing that is very important is that Techstars is actually the world's most active pre-seed investor. And the way that we do that is through our accelerators, which I'll talk a bit more about in a moment. But just to back up for a moment, Techstars began several years ago with 3 simple ideas. 1, entrepreneurs can create a better future for everyone. Extremely true, relevant still today, and something we absolutely have as part of our fabric. 1, collaboration drives innovation, and great ideas can come from anywhere. So our purpose is to democratize access to capital for tech entrepreneurs and startups. And that's why I believe that my job is so fun, because that's exactly what the ecosystem team gets to do every day, is we get to go out into communities all over the world, and we get to share opportunities to elevate entrepreneurs and their companies. So the accelerator, it has been in existence since 2006, and the accelerator is a 3-month program where we provide mentorship and corporate partners, investments, and alumni to wrap ourselves around supporting these founders accelerate their businesses. And so it's a 3-month accelerator, and it's a proven model that has helped, as you can see on the screen, thousands of companies be successful. And a couple of quick numbers to call out about our accelerators: we have 48 active accelerator programs happening globally today. We have just shy of 10,000 Techstars founders within the Techstars family. And we also have a market cap of $111 billion. And so the numbers are there. We are, again, the largest, the most active pre-seed investor in the world. And we are so proud of the reach that we've been able to have in our tenure. So let's move on. So let's, as we, think about our accelerators, which is what has been the product that many people know Techstars for over time, we realize that not everyone knows that we have this entire other world that we're here to share with you today. So let's move to the next one. So this is just a quick visual slide. And so what you can see here is on the left, we have different stages of startups. And then, different needs from a startup. And then across the top, we have the different stages of who these entrepreneurs are. And so you'll see where the accelerator sits, which is where we are a pre-seed investor via the accelerator. So to double down on that visual, if we go to the next slide, wow, we have all of these other items that we do as an organization that support ecosystems, because we identified that while we have all of these incredible companies coming through our accelerator program, there are so many entrepreneurs to reach before that. And so we identified a gap over many years of testing and iterating. And we found that there are several products that work and elevate an entrepreneur's skill set, ability to network, et cetera. So what that manifests into from an ecosystem development perspective is we have 3 core products, which we label as our Startup Community Catalyst product. So altogether, all of these efforts in the market are called a Startup Community Catalyst product. And what they're comprised of are 3 elements. The first is our Ecosystem Development Lab, which is primarily facing community leaders and stakeholders in an ecosystem to help them understand how to best support the founders in an ecosystem and how to best connect the dots so that they are able to support founders and also continue to build their community over time. So that's one that we're extremely proud of. Next, Startup Weekend, and we have some unbelievable stats after this slide, but don't move it quite yet. This Startup Weekend is a 3-day program where entrepreneurs are pitching ideas, finding co-founders, and experiencing startup life. We recently just had one in the Los Angeles area, and they're happening all the time. But I can safely say that this is one of the most inspiring things that I've ever seen, because people are coming to a startup weekend because they might have an idea or they might just want to use their skills, or they might just want to understand what entrepreneurship is. And they go from Friday night, meeting new people, maybe pitching idea, to Sunday night where they actually have a well-baked idea with a team of people they've never met. And in many cases, they've created a company and we have several data points where these folks have actually turned into companies that are invested in. Even unicorns come out of Startup Weekend. So it's a really powerful part of our process. And then the final piece is our Founder Catalyst, and you can liken this to a pre-accelerator or a boot camp, where we are taking early stage founders who are really looking to get more investment ready, and we are providing them with mentorship, networking, and skill building to take them to the next stage of our business. Next slide, just quickly to go over some stats to ground us in the impact that we're talking about. So community events, that's Startup Weekend plus many others over the years. We've had a million founders come through those events over the years. We also have 5,000 volunteer community leaders, which is unbelievable. And, you know, while I am on this point, to any community leader who is watching, thank you so much for your contributions to Techstars and to founders. Your work is beautiful, and we're so grateful for all the work that you do in your communities. And then on the Founder Catalyst side, which again is our pre-accelerator, this is a newer program, but we've had 25 programs in 13 cities globally, and we have 450 alumni. And what's really interesting is that we're actually able to convert those pre-accelerator folks to an accelerator at an average of about 10%. And we're really proud of that. So that means that 10% of our participants are naturally flowing into our accelerators. So really great. And the last thing I'll say, because I'm really excited to highlight our speakers, is that we couldn't do all of this work and all of this impact without two primary groups. One are our community leaders and facilitators, which believe me, there will be a whole nother workshop to highlight you all and the fantastic work that you do. So thank you again. And then the other group, which is why we're here today, is our partners. So our partners partner with us to unlock this impact that we're having on communities. And so people like Marty and Mariam have gotten shoulder to shoulder with us and helped us build products for their communities, for their ecosystem, whether it's a location or a demographic or a vertical. And so I'm really excited for this conversation today. And yeah, let's get this going.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for this. Now that you have a little bit more of context around the efforts of Techstars in the realm of ecosystem development, I'd love for our first panelist, Mariam, to get the chance to introduce herself. So Mariam, the mic is yours. Take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself to the audience. And right after this, we will have the opportunity to introduce our second panelist, Marty, as well. Mariam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Katie and team, for this great opportunity to speak more about the great work that we're doing together on the ecosystem building front. Thank you all for tuning in as well. I'm excited for the panel ahead. Maybe just a bit about myself. My name is Mariam Hassani, and I'm the head of innovation at the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority. The Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority is a very unique government entity that's based in the city of Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE. And what makes us very unique is that we are completely focused on early childhood development. So that's prenatal to the age of 8, across health and nutrition, child protection, family support, and early care and education. My role within the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority is very much trying to understand and implement how can we solve pressing challenges we're identifying on the ground in Abu Dhabi, also in the UAE and the wider region when it comes to early child development and sourcing scalable and sustainable technology companies and also solutions around the world and help them localize to the market and use Abu Dhabi as a launchpad to the wider MENA region. So we do this through multiple programs that we have alongside Techstars. But just more about myself and my history. I'm a strategy consultant turned startup founder, ecosystem enabler, policymaker, and now government official. One of my companies that I have co-founded, the clean tech company, was actually part of a Techstars accelerator before I had joined the ECA and started working with you guys in a more official capacity. And truly, I believe that this sort of work is instrumental, especially when considering we're trying to make an ecosystem out of a sector that's not very well understood or not very well acknowledged within the wider scope of things. We deal and work with a lot of diverse companies across these, 4 main sectors that cut across, multiple subfields. And I think the work that we're doing together is really instrumental in making Abu Dhabi the place to be for early child development and also one of our goals is, in fact, to make Abu Dhabi the most family-friendly city in the world. So I'll leave it there, and I'm excited for the panel again. Thank you.
Amazing. Mariam, so many hats you've worn throughout the years. It's amazing, actually. I'd love now to give the mic to Marty so that he can also introduce himself. Marty, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Emily, and appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name is Marty Guay. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Stanley Black Decker, and have a bit of a portfolio job. I spent my earlier career running businesses. I ran global divisions inside of big companies, and about 5 or 6 years ago, the CEO asked me to come to corporate to work on innovation, and we set up a Techstars accelerator in 2018, and we really focused on the areas of additive manufacturing, AI in manufacturing, sustainable packaging, mobility, because we recognize that 99.99% of all innovation was happening outside of our company. So we needed to figure out a way to really understand what the world was working on. And so I jumped in pretty deep into this effort and went out and met with the Amazon team, and then went and visited accelerators around the world, and came to really understand the power of Techstars throughout it all. Today, I work in innovation. I sit on about 5 or 6 of our venture investment boards of companies that we've invested in. I'm responsible for our workforce development strategy in the company, so I work on that nationally and globally, and I also am in charge of Stanley Black Decker's global philanthropy and social impact program. And it's a very diverse mix of responsibilities, but I can tell you that the world is really interconnected, and you have to really do things in a much more interdependent and connected way to really make impact in whatever you do. So I've learned a lot. I'm looking forward to learning today from my fellow panelists and moderator, of course, and appreciate the opportunity to be here, Emily.
I appreciate both of you being here. So the idea now is we will start the conversation if we can stop sharing the slides, and this way we will all be showing it. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. And just as I would say a warm-up question, I would love to understand a bit more why Mariam and Marty, why you decided to actually create a niche tech ecosystem. So Mariam, you mentioned early childhood, and Marty, we were talking during the preparation of this event about underrepresented founders and also the Baltimore area. So yes, what was the original wish that actually animated you to start building an ecosystem, and especially a niche tech ecosystem?
Yeah, I can go first. So essentially, as you know, a very new entity, we're almost 5 years now, in our early years as well, as a government body. We really realized that in order to solve, you know, these pressing challenges that we're identifying through our research, through our, you know, people on the ground and the partners we're working with, we needed to really look to the startup ecosystem and realizing the power of these solutions in our market, and obviously coupled with our market and our ecosystems, you know, acknowledgement of the importance of the right regulatory protocols and different frameworks in place to make that possible and make that the work and the solutions in the ecosystem more welcoming and viable. We realized that that's probably our best bet, right? Like to see what's out there in terms of the different founders creating awesome products that are meeting the needs that we're identifying. And so we had come up with the idea of creating a program for that, a localization program that's focusing on growth stage companies. Of course, we wanted to make sure we're also leveraging companies that are proven, have technologies that have found product market fit and are generating revenue, and focusing on the localization element of bringing them to the market, supporting them with mentorship, support through an array of local international experts to help them hone their product, but also localization support when it comes to making, those timely introductions for proof of concepts, piloting opportunities, and really getting their foot in the market here in the region. And finally, of course, equity-free grants that we provide with our partners at Abu Dhabi Investment Office of up to $200,000. So quite a good amount to be supporting these companies based upon their localization KPIs that we create with them bespokely. So it really made sense for us to leverage such a model when it came to us as a government body achieving our objectives, which is in fact having more great solutions and technology there for our beneficiaries to leverage, being the children, parents, and caregivers of Abu Dhabi in the UAE. Yeah, so we're very happy with the progress we've been able to accomplish so far. Now coming into our 5th cohort, we have a great portfolio of companies that are active and providing their solutions in the market.
You were mentioning also, Mariam, just slightly earlier that this was also a mean for you to make Abu Dhabi an even more attractive place than it already is, and become somewhat a center for this particular issue of early childhood development in the MENA region, but also, as we know that this is such a niche ecosystem also for the whole wide world, right?
100%. And obviously we track KPIs and metrics with our North Star with the program as well, really diligently. But I think one achievement really holds true to the impact we're doing is that one of our founders of a company that's essentially an edtech company for nurseries that was based in Finland, the founder who has a family and an infant at the time, decided to move her whole family and herself full-time to Abu Dhabi after the program. And I think that's quite an honor and an achievement for the program to have opened her eyes to the opportunity in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, but also her recognizing that it's a great place to raise her family. And that means that we're doing our job right as an entity as a whole.
Thank you so much for this. On your side, Marty, underrepresented founders in the Baltimore area, can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, we've got a big focus on diversity and inclusion, and we really believe that we're better with everybody engaged in what we're trying to accomplish. And we looked at Baltimore, and Baltimore is a large American city and a city predominantly of color, and really needing a lot of the benefits that Tier 1 cities have. In the States, Tier 2 cities really struggle. The Tier 1 cities, the big cities, have a big tax base. They've got a big wealth base. They have Tier 1 city problems, but the Tier 2 cities have Tier 1 city problems and Tier 2 city resources. So the hypothesis with some of the city leaders is, how do they create equitech, which is how do they create diverse founders to create technology companies, because technology companies create wealth, and they want to do that in Baltimore. So we actually saw that strategy, and they have a Techstars accelerator, the Equitech accelerator in Baltimore. And we were really keen to align ourselves with that ecosystem. I believe that if you think you're doing something new, there's probably somebody out there working on it already. So we went to find those people. We found those in Upsurge with the Equitech accelerator. We set up a founder catalyst program. Audra Gibson and Jerome Nicolai ran it for us. Audra did a terrific job. Great. We think we had the best founder catalyst program anywhere. And you can get some learnings from us, and we can get some learnings from others. But we really had great engagement. I believe ecosystems are voluntary. And people join them, or people get involved in them because they have a need that can't be solved internally. So, you've got to, we have to create a vision. And I think Mariam has done a real nice job with that, with her explanation of the early childhood strategy in Abu Dhabi. But you have to create a vision which is clear enough that everyone understands what you're trying to do, but then there's enough open space in it that people can join and participate and say, geez, I fit in over there, or I fit in over here. And there also has to be open space because everyone pivots and adapts, right? So that's what we try and do, is we solve for participation, and we think that everybody should join the cause, get under the tent, whatever term you want to use. And some people lead, some people follow, some people cheer, and then those roles change over time. So we felt good about our ability to create a good ecosystem, because we really, the ingredients are usually somewhere in the kitchen. You just need to sequence them and heat them up at different times and add different things and create the recipe that people want to be part of. So for us, participation is the highest value we try to solve for.
So interesting. Thank you so much, Marty. And I think you gave way and led the way to the next question I really wanted to ask here, which is, what are those ingredients actually? Who are the people that you are actually working with on creating those ecosystems? Who are your partners? And if you want to give a shout out, this is also the moment to do it, I would say. But yes, can you give us a bit more information about that?
Mariam, if you don't mind, I'll just continue and then turn it over to you. You know, who are the partners? I think it's pretty much everybody. When you're outside of an ecosystem, you look at the world very mechanically, as very kind of a linear cause and effect moment, much more transactional. It can be transactional in a very important way, but in the ecosystem, you need to think much more spatially and think about how to sequence things and how to build relationships and things that don't exist. So for us, it's unclear who can do that. That's why we need as many people involved in this endeavor. We don't know up front what's going to happen, but people know their assets better than ours. And they'll say, boy, I got involved in this. I really didn't know what to do. But all of a sudden now, this is really fascinating. I've been lucky enough to meet some very interesting people. And one of them was Martin Reeves of the Boston Consulting Group. He runs their thought leadership at the Henderson Institute. And he talks about ecosystems in a biological manner, that they're biological and not mechanical, and that every asset that comes into the ecosystem has certain properties, biological properties, chemical properties. They need to be adaptable. They need to be modular. When things intersect, there's reactions. So for us, you know, Emily, just we brought in nonprofits, we brought in academia, we brought in higher ed, we brought in investors, we brought in curious people that wanted to do something. Again, full participation, because the treasures of the future don't look like treasures today, and the treasures of the past can inform the future. So this is about getting all different kinds of people involved, and it navigates to that point. And one last point in this, I think Upsurge has done a really nice job where they host a social event every Tuesday night for the community. And every Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, the community gathers at the same place, kind of a happy hour, kind of a social thing. People can eat, people can talk, and it's a forum. And it's a forum for people in the ecosystem to know they always can go to and find somebody, meet somebody new, talk to somebody they already know. And things happen in that moment. Things happen, and I've come to believe in life over time that informal settings are more powerful than formal settings to get decisions done, because people are more comfortable.
I have to second that 100%, Marty. Myself being also an ecosystem developer on my free time in Berlin, where I'm based at, I've also seen the power of people coming together and just informally just clicking. You know, this is definitely a very powerful tool that we have, those in-person and formal moments. Mariam, is there anything that you would like to add to all of this, and perhaps give us your perspective also on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I echo everything that Marty said, and I think it really just stems back to ecosystems really being in the best interest of the founder, you know, having that founder first approach, wanting them to succeed as your metric. And I think everyone has a role to play in that. as a policymaker, as a government body, as a, you know, a successful founder who gives back to the community. Everyone does have a role to play, and especially in emerging tech scenes like we have in the UAE and the MENA region, it's instrumental for us to really categorize that. More specifically with our program, the Angelzi Founder Catalyst program that we actually are very particular about the partners we call upon after each or within each cohort. So because we take in a very small batch, 5 to 7 companies, growth stage companies a year, we're able to really focus on them and understand what does it take for them to localize and how can they best leverage this opportunity in the market. So of course we have our list, you know, of partners that we've developed great relationships with, and of course that's an ongoing effort to nurture those relationships, make sure they have the best intentions as well, that they want to grow the ecosystem. The members within those organizations really believe in the cause, and they really, you know, take it a step further than just, you know, their day-to-day job of answering an email or so. They really want those companies to succeed. And so depending on which companies we take in the batch, we ensure we pair them with the right partner, make those introductions. I will say though, with a preface, a lot of the work really has to come from the startups themselves, right? It's, yes, we can make introductions, but as a founder, you really need to put the work in. You need to do the legwork. You need to be in the ecosystem. You need to make sure you have those, you know, strong relationships with those entities and really take it forward, because that's really the difference between success and failure. We've had, you know, one of our startups of our last cohort did amazingly, was able to, you know, achieve 7 pilots, supporting more than 500 students in the Emirate, just by really working the system and utilizing all the relationships we provided, but also going in the field and doing her own work. So that was something we were really proud of. And of course, we will do everything we can to facilitate that to happen through the mentorship, through the localization support, through the equity-free grant financing. But again, the true, you know, founders that are taking the opportunity seriously and putting in the work are really come to shine. So that's my 2 cents on the subject.
Yeah, amazing. Actually, I think what you said also echoes what Marty was saying about taking part in the ecosystem. At the end of the day, the ecosystem exists. It has to have a cause, a vision, but it also has to leave place for people to really get involved with it. And once you get involved with it, this is where when you can actually just take out a lot out of an ecosystem. And maybe Katie, if you want to add something also from your perspective of head of ecosystem at Techstars, you've seen so many of those. I'm sure you have also things to say to us.
Yeah, first of all, Mariam and Marty are delivering a masterclass on ecosystem development, so I'm just really here as a fan. But I think that what both of them are sharing highlight the things that we think about all the time, and it brings to mind something that one of our co-founders of Techstars, Brad Feld, brought to light, which is the Boulder thesis, which you know, the point that there are certain required items that have to happen for an ecosystem to thrive. And you know, Mariam hit on, in my mind, one of the most critical, if not the most critical, which is being founder first. The entrepreneurs must lead the ecosystem effort. They must be at the core of what we're thinking about and what we're doing to build the ecosystem. Because if what they want and need to move their business forward is not being supported, then why are we here? We also need to think about it being a long-term commitment. You know, an ecosystem is not built overnight. And so, you know, the work that Mariam and Marty are doing, and many others that we've seen across the world are thinking about, is a long-term plan. How do we consistently give these founders support and resources over many, many years, also known as forever, right? Like they should always have this support and this momentum. And then, of course, Marty touched on inclusion and diversity. that's critical. Including voices and perspectives and backgrounds is essential to building a thriving ecosystem. And then, you know, similar to the long-term commitment, the engagement, these activities that we're all talking about, which are tenfold. It's startup weekends, it's a networking event, it's a fireside chat, it's you know, mentor magic, as we call it at Techstars. It's anything that you're doing to activate interactions amongst your community members. That should be continual. So, you know, one event a year isn't going to cut it, right? It's thinking through 12 months of content that can offer resources to your founders and to your stakeholders in that community.
I just want to add something to that, Katie, because I think, you know, what Techstars does very well is it provides this forum to convene and for people to come together. It's very welcoming, and there's a lot of rich content and speakers and a whole host of assets that are deployed. But I'll come back to this notion of informality and the power of informality, and the reason why formality is so important to weave in all this informality. And I share the example of when you're taught ethics growing up. Everyone's parents taught them ethics, and this was a really important moment in all our lives. But they didn't sit us down on the couch at home for 3 weeks to teach us ethics. Every single interaction was in the moment. It wasn't long, but you may have been in a store and the clerk gave your mother too much money back, and she said, no, that you gave me too much money. Or somebody down the street was sick, and your mother said, go bring some food and take some food to the neighbor. You learn these things in the moment, and you need to be in those settings to learn those things. And you have to have the founders have mentors around them, and stakeholders be engaged. And when you put all these people under a tent, all these things start to happen. And the development is not obvious, because when you go through a class, of course you get a lot, you learn a lot. But after the class, there's a discussion on early education policy and what's going on in the ministry and who's doing what next door. And I think these are the moments we need to solve for, is these two things. And that's why I think as much formality, that's where it starts, but the informality and the participation is really where it scales. And if the ecosystem doesn't get scale, it's unsustainable. Scale is the success of sustainability, because if you can't scale it, it'll just wither over time, right? When the people leave, right?
Yeah, and I really think it's important also what Katie said about it. It just takes a lot of time, and therefore continuous effort, even when you feel like you're not seeing the results. I mean, I think what does it take? Almost 10 years for an ecosystem to be developed in some sort of like indicatable standard. I think what we realized, and through the ecosystem development lab service through Techstars, is that every year these stakeholders almost get a better understanding of this, you know, very vital role that they play, beyond just, again, their day-to-day jobs, or, you know, superficially saying that, you know, they're able to support this company, but really, again, them personally taking an interest in these solutions, in these companies, in these founders, and wanting to be part of their journey, I think is really, really important. When someone gets to have a sense of, you know, feeling like they're along with on the ride of this exciting company setting up and being formed, and really taking a chance on the market and the ecosystem, and providing value back to the beneficiaries. I think it's a great feeling to be a part of, and just managing the program over the past 5 years now, you really start to see the ecosystem being more aware and acknowledging this. So I think, again, it's making also sure that you find how you can leverage existing ecosystem structures in place. So in Abu Dhabi, for example, we have this platform called Hub 71, that is very much, you know, the epicenter of startups in Abu Dhabi. And we find that it's very important for us to host our program in Hub 71. So whenever the founders come, they're surrounded by other founders. They might not be in the same sector as them, but they're making relationships, they're making connections. They're able to know, how easy it can be to move to Abu Dhabi and set up your business here, and where should you go for this and that. And I think it's really important to, again, open those doors and those opportunities to them, and then them taking the interest to really explore it to its fullest while they're there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's actually leading the way into what I wanted to touch upon as another topic, which is, now that both Marty, Mariam, and Katie, in this case, you all have tremendous experience in building ecosystems. My question here would be, what are the tips and tricks that you would suggest to the audience right now, and maybe even things that you would have loved to know before you started this endeavor, something that would have made your life easier in ecosystem development work? Yeah.
Mariam, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think that if you're in the field, the passion's already there somewhat, right? Like you realize that it's important work that you're doing. You realize it's instrumental, but it really is about putting your all in it, right? Like thinking beyond just the constraints of your day-to-day job, what you can give back in that capacity. I myself, I find that when I started my position as head of innovation, I knew that it was so important for me to have had that experience as a founder to really understand what it takes and how best I can serve them well in my role to help them succeed. And I think that sort of realization is important. It's humbling, but it's very important. And I think everyone, again, has a role to play. It's just a matter of realizing how best you can support, and really taking the necessary steps to be out there, responding to them when they reach out to you on LinkedIn or anywhere else, and just trying to help as best as you can, whether it's just even pointing them in the right direction, giving them a piece of knowledge that can help them succeed, that you wouldn't have thought is very valuable, but for them, it really helps them in their development and their product journey. So yeah, I think that's what my key takeaway would be. It's just figure out how best you can serve, and really take the steps to do that, because everyone does have something to contribute.
Absolutely. And finding your USP, I would say, on how you can support the ecosystem as a person, an individual, and an organization. Marty, do you have also something on your top of your mind perhaps to share here?
Yeah, I think there's people out there working on the same things you are. And I think what the power of when we used Techstars as a convener was that it became very visible, and then we had to paint the vision inside of that, with them to make the formula very local. But people need to get something, and people need to give something, and people need to give something, and people need to get something. And because and everyone needs something different. Some people need advice on how to go to market. Other people who come in as mentors need prestige or affirmation or relationships or inspiration to go start something themselves. I mean, so there needs to be a real kind of steady diet of these interactions that really get the most out of people. I'm a big believer in people and the power of people working together. But we have to, the ecosystem should be ways to connect them. And the ecosystem should also enable people to adapt themselves, their business, whatever they're working on. So we actually want to provide, and I think Mariam touched on this with, supporting people and mentoring them, but the ecosystem has to be a place where people can change. This is really where you can actually make changes as a founder, as whatever you are in that ecosystem. It should be a place for adaptability. And that's why I'm a big believer in modularity, because if something isn't working, you can make that change without having failure somewhere else, right? but it's exciting, and I do believe ecosystems are not hierarchical. We don't try and manage them from the top. We really enable them. You know, it's like a family reunion. I think Thomas Jefferson said it best. He goes, the host is responsible for bringing the best food and drink, and it's up to the guests to bring the best spirit and conversation. And I think we need to let people know when they're coming into the ecosystem what our expectations are. Welcome them, and we really want you to participate and share your gifts. And you know, sometimes they just come in and they're there at a thing, and I think we have to cue people up, because I think we're going to get more out of them when we raise the expectation a bit.
Thank you, Marty. Maybe Katie, a few words very quickly. I would love to keep 5 minutes for Q&A.
Yeah, Marty, that also gave me a very American baseball movie reference, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. You know,
I
like
think
it's
so.
yeah, it's our job to create an infrastructure and help connect the dots. But at the end of the day, folks have to come and, like you said, bring their spirit, and it takes a whole new form. I think also as someone with an operations background, it was really tricky for me as I started ecosystem work to understand that there's not a one size fits all playbook for an ecosystem. And Marty, you mentioned the children metaphor earlier. You know, we were in a conversation last week with Ian Hathaway, who wrote a book with our co-founder Brad Feld, and he was talking about, you know, you can have this plan to raise children, but then they're human beings, and so they have their own plan. And so that is very much true from an ecosystem where every ecosystem is so nuanced and so incredible in its own right. And so to be on the ground and to connect resources and to let it organically lead itself with like fostering some activity is, you know, a great route to success, because that top-down approach, as you said, Marty, isn't gonna work.
No, too many humans involved.
Yeah.
Amazing. So maybe as a last few words from each of our speakers before we delve into the Q&A. I see we've already got a couple of questions. Maybe in this case, how has Techstars really supported you, Mariam and Marty, into creating your ecosystem? What was the role, and how did we support you in accelerating this process, which is, as Katie mentioned it, a very long-term process? Maybe if you have a couple of words on that before we delve into the questions that we've received.
Sure. I ran 4 accelerators, and then I've been to visit a lot of Techstars accelerators in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. I think Techstars does a great job. I used as the company contact and the lead, I used my time to really go to those 40 to 50 other accelerators and find out what was going on, and built relationships with the MDs and the program managers and the mentors and investors, and really got scale out of Techstars, not just what we were doing, but what the power of the network was, because I think that's really where the power of Techstars is. I mean, you get enough just having a program in your city or in your company or at your university, full stop. But when you put up that first slide, and Katie talks about the scale of the legacy that's active, it's incredible. So for me, that's as much gold as it is what we're doing. So I work on both.
Mariam, maybe a few words to add on this?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree about the network. I think that was one of the really valuable propositions that we were able to get from Techstars during our program, was outreach and the brand recognition and the obviously top-notch mentorship network that our founders had access to. I think second is that you guys were also very flexible with us. I mean, as a government entity in a very niche market, we had the plan in place, and maybe very atypical for Techstars to accept a program with just 5 to 7 companies in this peculiar model where we provide equity-free grants. And so we were very appreciative that although obviously your services are very well structured and well built, you were also flexible with what we needed at the time. And we were also able to grow with you, unlocking more services. So currently we utilize all 3 startup community catalyst services. And we're also, working with you on other fronts when it comes to really getting more engagement and brand recognition worldwide in the space of early childhood development. So yeah, I think those 2 main points would be our greatest takeaways from our fruitful relationship.
Thank you so much. I think those are beautiful last words. Let's get into the Q&A. And I will start by asking the question that was posted by Scott. So let me read it out for you. Could someone please comment on how they have overcome the risk aversion so present in local public and private partners when tackling the scary subject of startups? Maybe Mariam, that would be a question directed at ECA for this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's an inherent risk, right? Because you're talking about mindsets, and that's why I think the way in which we're able to structure not just the program, but also the ecosystem development lab and other activations with those members of the partners, to really almost get them on our side, to see the importance of the work that they're doing and understand that, yes, it comes with inherent risk, but also there's also very much, rewards on the end of that journey. And I think also taking it in the sense of, you understanding that these companies, in fact, are, I mean, in our case, they're already validated, their growth stage. That kind of maybe sweetens the deal a bit. But I think it's also, again, the mindset, but also the ecosystem at large. We have a lot of support from leadership to be innovative and to really take those risks, calculated risks when it comes to providing government services and doing more for our beneficiaries. So yeah, I think it's really a journey. Like I said, we've seen it evolve year after year. Their mindsets are shifting. They're being, more open to it. They're really starting to enjoy it as well. So I think it's a matter of time and also effort in nurturing those relationships.
Beautiful. Marty, did you want to add something on this regarding your own experience with Stanley Black Decker?
I think, I think Mariam said it well in terms of, the risk profile and how to manage that. I always tell people there's a bigger risk not engaging with startups. I mean, this is really what the world is working on. And when you're a big organization or a government or a big company, the hardest thing we have to deal with is legacy. We got to bring all of our legacy along and solve for that. But when you deal with founders, the only thing they're thinking of is the future. They're not dealing with legacy. So their aperture is actually a bit wider open because they're not trying to iterate or pivot on a big base of legacy. They're all clean sheet, and you have to know what people are thinking and what they're doing. So there's a risk in not doing it. Are they gonna fail? A lot of them will, but I think you'll fail if you don't deal with them. And I think that's the risk you have to take.
Absolutely, I do agree. Engaging with founders every day, I think this is one of the most enriching things I've ever had to do. Another question, and maybe as a wrap up to this session from Majed, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. What advice do you have for startups in the idea stage? What areas should we prioritize? I'm guessing that Majed means in terms of industry and verticals in this case, but if it's not the case, Majed, please drop a line in the chat. Does anyone want to address this first?
I would say solve a very discrete problem, not a big problem, but a discrete problem that can be copy pasted at scale. You need to solve something that is tangible and in front of somebody, and you can copy paste it around the world. I think some people try and solve the very big problem and never can get adoption. And so problem size, I think, is my advice. Make sure it's not too big.
Yeah, I mean, idea stage, depending on where you're at in your journey. Obviously, there's programs for that. There's a startup weekend, I think, would be a good way to kind of get a structured approach to go from idea to prototype or MVP, and also obviously to meet interesting people who really want to go on this journey with you, because it's really important also to have the right team around you, right, to be able to deliver and obviously take you through those very harsh days ahead that you're going to face as a founder. What I'd also say, again, depending on how early you are in your stage, I would maybe suggest reading the Mom Test. I think that book is it's so small, so simple, but it's so effective. And I think it really starts with asking the right questions and validating the problem you're trying to solve. Again, market is really important, especially if you're looking to raise VC money. Like, they want to make sure that you're solving or at least have the potential to solve a big problem. But also for you to be as effective as you can during this journey to validate what you're solving and start to, get your MVP out there, iterate, and learn, is really the only way, I think, to kickstart, the journey from just an idea.
Beautiful. And I think this leaves us with 1 minute to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Mariam, Marty, and Katie, for being here and for sharing all of your insights. Thank you also for giving us a little piece of your time and sharing with the community. You will have in the chat right now the links to all of the speakers and my own LinkedIn. If you want to connect, please do not hesitate to do so. Also showing on the screen the QR codes to all of those LinkedIn profiles. We were very happy to see all of you here. And in any case, we'll see you very soon at the next edition of Startup Ecosystems Unlocked. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation today.